My name is Cassandra, and at 28 years old, I thought I finally had my life together. As a financial analyst, I worked overtime for 3 years to earn that $12,800 bonus. One phone call from my controlling mother changed everything. She invited me to what she called a small family dinner. Instead, I walked into a house filled with 81 guests and a banner reading, "Welcome, baby Emily." My mother laughed when she saw my shocked face and casually said, "We spent your bonus on family joy." I stayed quiet and replied, "Noted." Before I continue my story, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had family take advantage of you financially. Growing up in the Henderson household meant never knowing if the electricity would stay on until the end of the month. My mother Diana approached money like water flowing through her fingers. No matter how much came in, it always disappeared without anything substantial to show for it. Our financial situation constantly teetered on the edge of disaster, with bill collectors calling at all hours and mysterious emergencies depleting any savings before they could accumulate. As the oldest of 3 children, I learned early on about financial responsibility, not from positive examples, but from witnessing the chaos that resulted from its absence. By 14, I was working after school at the local grocery store, hiding portions of my paycheck in a lockbox under my bed. My mother discovered my secret savings when I was 16 and justified taking $400 for household expenses that somehow manifested as new shoes and salon appointments for herself. "Family money is community money," she would say whenever questioned about her spending habits. "We all benefit when one of us has something nice." My siblings and I never seemed to be included in that we. College became my escape plan. Through scholarships, student loans, and working 30 hours a week while maintaining a full course load, I put myself through State University with a degree in finance. The irony wasn't lost on me that I chose to study the very thing my family had never mastered. During my sophomore year, when I was severely ill with pneumonia and briefly hospitalized, I gave my mother emergency access to my bank account so she could deposit money from my roommates for rent. This temporary access was never revoked, though I had created separate accounts since then for my primary finances. That old account remained open with minimal funds, a remnant of my college days I never quite got around to closing. After graduation, I secured a position at Lawrence Financial Partners, a respected firm in the city. For 3 years, I worked 60-hour weeks, took on extra projects, and built a reputation for meticulous work. My dedication finally paid off with a promotion to senior analyst and a $12,800 bonus, the largest sum of money I had ever received at once. This bonus represented freedom to me. I planned to allocate $6,000 toward my remaining student loans, $4,000 to bolster my emergency fund, and the rest for a modest vacation to the mountains, my first real break in years. I had calculated exactly how this money would improve my financial future, advancing my 5-year plan toward true stability. Despite our history, I maintained contact with my family. Weekly phone calls with my mother, holiday gatherings, and occasional Sunday dinners kept us connected, though I carefully sidestepped conversations about money. My boundaries were clear but unspoken, a delicate balance of family loyalty and self-preservation. The Tuesday after receiving my bonus, my mother called, her voice brimming with unusual warmth. "Cassie, honey, we are having a small family dinner this Saturday. Just the immediate family. Your presence is requested," she said, an odd formality in her tone. "I had plans to research vacation spots this weekend," I replied, already feeling the familiar pull of obligation. "Plans can change. Family comes first, you know that. It would mean so much to everyone." After several minutes of gentle but persistent pressure, I agreed to attend what I believed would be a gathering of perhaps 10 people at most. Before ending the call, I made my critical mistake. Excited about my achievement and momentarily dropping my guard, I mentioned my bonus. Actually, Mom, I do have some good news. I received a substantial bonus at work, $12,800 for all the extra hours I have been putting in. The pause on the line should have warned me. That is wonderful, sweetheart. So proud of you. Which bank did you deposit it in? The one you gave me access to during college or your new one? The joint access one, I answered without thinking. I will transfer it to my high-yield savings account next week. Perfect timing, then Saturday will be extra special now. See you at 6 sharp. The call ended with me feeling an unsettled apprehension I couldn't quite name. 3 days later, I would understand exactly why. Saturday evening arrived with unusual clarity for early autumn. I pulled into my mother's neighborhood around 6:15, fashionably late as a small act of independence. As I turned onto her street, my stomach tightened. Cars lined both sides of the road, at least 25 vehicles where I expected to see 5 or 6. Maybe someone on the street is having a party, I thought, trying to dismiss my growing unease. But as I approached my mother's modest 2-story home, a sinking realization set in. Every parking space near her house was filled. I eventually parked nearly 2 blocks away, my mind racing with possibilities, none of them good. Walking up the driveway, I heard music and laughter spilling from open windows. The front door stood ajar, revealing glimpses of a crowd inside. Taking a deep breath, I stepped across the threshold into a scene that confirmed my worst suspicions. The living room and adjoining dining area teemed with people, many of whom I barely recognized. Extended family members mingled with neighbors and friends I hadn't seen in years. Children darted between groups of chatting adults, and hanging prominently, across the archway between rooms, was an elaborate banner in pastel pink and gold lettering, "Welcome Baby, Emily." My cousin Jessica, 6 months pregnant with her first child, sat in a decorated chair in the center of the room, surrounded by wrapped gifts piled nearly to her shoulders. Jessica and I were never particularly close, having met at family gatherings perhaps once a year since childhood. As I stood frozen in the entryway, my mother spotted me and rushed over, glass of champagne in hand. "Cassie, you made it. Isn't this wonderful?" The whole family came together to celebrate Jessica and baby Emily. "Mom, I managed to say through clenched teeth you said this was a small family dinner." She waved her hand dismissively. "Well, it started that way in the planning, but you know how these things grow. Once word got out about Jessica's baby shower, everyone wanted to attend. We couldn't exactly turn family away, could we?" I glanced around the room, counting unfamiliar faces. There must be 80 people here. 81, actually. We had to rent extra chairs, she said proudly, as if this was an accomplishment. And the catering, the decorations, the gifts. I gestured to the elaborate spread of food on tables in the dining room, the professional-looking decorations, transforming the house and the mountain of presents. My mother's eyes sparkled with excitement as she lowered her voice. "That is the best part. When you told me about your bonus, I knew it was perfect timing. Jessica has been so worried about affording everything for the baby with Paul losing his job and all. So I took care of everything. The venue, which is here, obviously the catering from that fancy place downtown, Custom Baby Gifts, even hired a professional photographer to capture every moment." The room seemed to tilt slightly as her words registered. "You took care of everything. With what money, exactly?" Her smile didn't waver. "Your bonus, of course. Remember when you gave me access to your account during college? Such a blessing that you never changed those settings. I knew you would want to contribute to family joy, especially for sweet baby Emily. You make enough money now, and family always comes first." Blood rushed to my face as I fought to maintain composure. You withdrew my bonus money without asking me, all of it. Not all at once, she said, as if that made it better. 15 separate transactions over 3 days. Had to stay under the daily limit, you know. Jessica approached us then, her pregnant belly leading the way, eyes bright with gratitude. Cassandra, thank you so much for all of this. She gestured around the room. Your mom told me you were helping sponsor the shower. I cannot believe how generous you are. This is more than I ever dreamed of. Behind Jessica stood her husband Paul, looking simultaneously embarrassed and relieved. He gave me a nod that seemed both grateful and apologetic, clearly unaware of the truth. I felt dozens of eyes on me, family members, watching for my reaction. Some looked admiring, others slightly envious, a few seemed concerned or suspicious. My Aunt Margaret, my mother's sister, observed with narrowed eyes from across the room, likely sensing something amiss. A vivid memory flashed through my mind, age 17, discovering my mother had borrowed $200 from my college fund to buy concert tickets for herself and her friends. When confronted, she had cried, accused me of being selfish and uncaring, and successfully turned several family members against me for weeks. In that moment, I made a calculation. Creating a scene would only make me the villain in my mother's narrative. This was a battle to fight strategically, not emotionally, in front of an audience she had carefully assembled. I am so happy for you, Jessica, I said, forcing warmth into my voice. Congratulations. My mother beamed triumphantly, interpreting my restraint as acceptance. She clinked her glass with a fork, calling for attention. Everyone. A toast to my generous daughter Cassandra, whose contribution made this beautiful celebration possible, to family, taking care of family. Cheers erupted as glasses raised. I lifted my empty hand in acknowledgement, my voice steady as I met my mother's gaze directly. Noted, I said quietly, the single word, carrying the weight of a promise. I stayed for exactly 45 minutes, making minimal conversation while observing everything with newfound clarity. The custom-ordered cake from the city's most expensive bakery. The professional photographer capturing every moment. The monogrammed party favors for each guest. The caterers serving premium appetizers and drinks. Every detail represented dollars drained from my account without consent. Every smile directed my way was purchased with my stolen funds. At 7:30, I excused myself, claiming a work emergency requiring immediate attention. My mother frowned disapprovingly, but couldn't create a scene without revealing her deception. As I left, I heard her explaining to others about my important finance job that pays so well she hardly notices sharing with family. Walking to my car, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, finally seeing the damage in detail. 15 transactions over 3 days, systematically emptying my account of $12,800. My hands shook not with anger but with resolution. By tomorrow things would change. The drive home passed in a blur of emotion and clarity. My knuckles turned white on the steering wheel as memories cascaded through my mind, instances of financial manipulation I had dismissed or downplayed throughout my life. Age 8. My birthday money from grandparents disappearing from my unicorn piggy bank, later discovered as new earrings on my mother's ears. Borrowing, she called it. Age 12. The $100 I earned from summer lawn mowing jobs, mysteriously needed for household bills, while my mother got a new hairstyle that same week. Age 16. My first car purchased with 2 years of saved wages, loaned to my mother's friend who promptly crashed it. No insurance, no reimbursement, just a lecture about selfishness when I expressed anger. College years. Care packages I sent home containing groceries and necessities for my younger siblings, found unopened and resold by my mother for cash. Each incident formed a pattern I had refused to fully acknowledge until now. My mother had never seen me as an independent person with rights to my own resources. In her world, my achievements existed to compensate for her failures, my stability to offset her chaos. I was not a daughter, but a resource to exploit. Arriving at my apartment, I went straight to my computer and logged into my bank account, confirming what I already knew. Multiple transactions over 3 days. $3,000 to Elegant Events Catering, $2,500 to Precious Moments Photography, $1,800 to Sweet Dreams Bakery, $1,200 to Balloon and Banner Wonderland, $900 to Premium Party Rentals, $800 to Tiny Treasures, Baby Boutique, $700 to Gift Wrap Specialists, $500 to Golden Touch Decorations, $400 to Sophisticated Sips, Beverage, Service, $300 to Musical Memories DJ Services, $250 to Custom Cupcake Creations, $200 to Party Favor Paradise, $150 to Digital Invitation Designs, $100 to Valet Parking Services, $50 to Premium Streaming Music Subscription, $12,800. Every cent of my bonus meticulously distributed to create an elaborate event for someone else's child without my knowledge or consent. I sat in stunned silence, then reached for my phone and called Jordan, my college roommate, who now worked in banking security. I need advice on unauthorized access to my account, I said, when she answered, my voice steadier than I expected. For the next hour, Jordan walked me through my options, explaining policies on fraudulent transactions, family access complications, and the documentation I would need. The joint access complicates things, she explained. But since you can prove you never authorized these specific transactions, and given the pattern and timing, you have a strong case for fraud. Will I have to press charges? I asked, hesitating at the thought of legal action against my own mother. Not necessarily to recover the funds, but it strengthens your position if you are willing to. The bank needs to see you are serious about unauthorized access. After our call, I researched banking regulations and policies until midnight, making detailed notes and gathering evidence. I downloaded 3 months of bank statements highlighting the regular pattern of my transactions, compared to the sudden flurry of unusual purchases, coinciding exactly with my bonus deposit. Around 1 in the morning, I found myself standing at my window, watching the quiet street below, and confronting the ethical questions that had begun to surface. Was I overreacting? $12,000 was significant to me, but was it worth potentially fracturing family relationships? Would I be seen as greedy or uncaring for demanding it back? Then another thought emerged, clear and undeniable. This wasn't just about money. This was about respect, boundaries, and autonomy. By taking my bonus without permission, my mother had declared that my work, my sacrifices, and my plans held no value compared to her wishes. She had stolen more than dollars. She had attempted to steal my independence. If I allowed this violation to stand, it would never end. There would always be another family emergency, another special occasion, another reason why my resources should be diverted to purposes I hadn't chosen. The clarity of this realization settled over me like a weight being lifted. This confrontation wasn't just necessary, it was overdue, years overdue. I returned to my desk and began documenting everything systematically, creating a detailed timeline of events with supporting evidence. Then, I drafted a comprehensive plan. First, contact the bank's fraud department. First thing in the morning. Report unauthorized transactions and initiate reversal process. Second, freeze all accounts my mother could possibly access. Third, withdraw remaining funds to secure them from further unauthorized access. Fourth, Open new accounts at a different bank with enhanced security measures. Fifth change, all password security questions and access protocols across all financial platforms. Sixth, document everything in case legal action became necessary. Seventh, prepare for the inevitable confrontation with clear boundaries and consequences established. For the first time since discovering the theft, I felt a sense of calm. This would be difficult, possibly even devastating to certain relationships, but necessary for my future. I set my alarm for 6:30, knowing tomorrow would require all my strength and clarity. As I finally lay down to sleep around 3 in the morning, one thought remained: this ends now. At exactly 6:30, my alarm jolted me awake after barely 3 hours of fitful sleep. Despite my exhaustion, adrenaline pushed me into immediate action. I showered quickly, dressed in my most professional outfit, and sat down at my desk with a large cup of coffee and my detailed plan from the night before. First, I needed to document everything systematically. I took screenshots of all 15 unauthorized transactions, including timestamps, merchant information, and transaction IDs. I created a spreadsheet tracking every detail, including when my bonus had been deposited and the suspicious timing of my mother's invitation immediately afterward. Next, I gathered evidence of my mother's unauthorized access. I found the text messages from college where I had given her temporary emergency access during my hospitalization, with clear language about the temporary nature of the arrangement. I also had emails discussing my bonus and my explicit plans for using it for student loans and emergency savings, establishing that I never intended these funds for family use. At 7:30, I began executing my plan. First, I logged into my compromised account and changed all security settings, removing my mother as an authorized user. I changed the password security questions and added two-factor authentication linked to a new email address my mother had no knowledge of. I then contacted my bank's fraud department, explaining the situation in precise, factual terms. The representative Amanda listened carefully as I detailed how my account had been accessed without permission and funds systematically drained through 15 strategic transactions. These purchases were made without my knowledge or consent, I explained. I have documentation showing the temporary nature of the shared access from 5 years ago during a medical emergency, with no indication this access would continue long-term or be used for major withdrawals. Amanda was professionally sympathetic but necessarily thorough. I understand this is a sensitive situation involving family Miss Henderson. We will need to investigate each transaction. Do you have any documentation showing these purchases were unauthorized? I had prepared for this. Yes, I have text messages from the account holder admitting to using my funds without permission, specifically targeting my recent work bonus. I also have witnesses who heard her publicly acknowledge taking the money without my prior knowledge at an event yesterday evening. The call lasted 45 minutes, resulting in a formal fraud investigation being opened. Amanda explained that reversing the transactions would be complex since they involved multiple merchants, but the process had begun. I authorized the bank to freeze the account immediately to prevent any further unauthorized activity. By 9:15, I had moved to the next phase. I opened my laptop and initiated transfers of all remaining funds from accounts my mother might possibly access to my secure personal account at a different bank. I watched the confirmation screens appear one by one, each representing another resource, protected from future exploitation. Next came the most challenging technical task, systematically changing every password security question and recovery option across all my financial platforms. Banking apps, investment accounts, retirement funds, credit cards, student loan servicers, tax preparation services, and financial planning tools. For each, I created new complex passwords, stored in a secure password manager, established new security questions with answers my mother could never guess, and removed any recovery, phone numbers, or emails she might access. At 11:30, I took a short break to refuel with a sandwich and to check my phone, which I had deliberately set aside to focus. 23 missed calls and 37 text messages, all from my mother. I scrolled through them without reading, fully noting the progression from confusion to anger to threats. Some charges were declined. "What did you do to your account? Call me immediately. You're being completely selfish and childish. The caterers are threatening to sue ME because of you. If you don't fix this right now, don't bother coming to Thanksgiving." I set the phone down without responding and returned to my computer. The final step in securing my finances involved opening entirely new accounts at Meridian Bank, a competitor to my current institution with no connection to any accounts my mother knew about. I established checking, savings, and investment accounts with the strictest security protocols available, marking all account statements for electronic delivery only to prevent any paper trail. By 2 in the afternoon, I received confirmation that 13 of the 15 transactions had been successfully flagged for reversal. The merchants would be contacted by the bank, and the funds would be returned to my account within 3 to 5 business days. The remaining 2 transactions were more complex due to service agreements and would require additional investigation. At 3:30, I received a call from the bank's security department. They had reviewed the evidence and officially classified the transactions as fraudulent. The representative explained that I had the option to press criminal charges against the unauthorized user. "We understand this is a family matter, but we are required to inform you of your rights in this situation," the representative explained. "I appreciate that," I responded. "At this time, I am not pursuing criminal charges, but I do want it noted in my file that this was definitively unauthorized access, and I want all possible security measures implemented." By 5 o'clock, I had completed every item on my action plan. My finances were secured, transactions were being reversed, new accounts were established, and all access points were protected. I allowed myself a moment of pride in having acted decisively and thoroughly. Then I turned off my phone, completely made myself a proper meal, and prepared for the confrontation I knew would come. My mother would not accept this reversal quietly. She would escalate, involve others, and attempt to reassert control through any means available. For the first time in my adult life, I felt truly in control of my boundaries. Whatever storm came next, I had secured my foundations. The $12,800 were more than money to me now. They represented my declaration of independence. I slept soundly that night, phone still powered off, knowing that by morning everything would have changed. The harsh buzz of my apartment doorbell woke me at 6:45 the next morning. Persistent and repeated it left no doubt that whoever stood outside had no intention of leaving. I checked my security camera app to confirm what I already suspected, my mother looking disheveled and furious, jabbing at the button repeatedly. Before confronting her, I powered on my phone to assess the damage. 68 missed calls, 122 text messages, 30 voice messages. Notifications from multiple social media platforms where family members had tagged me or sent messages. I scrolled through texts from various relatives, seeing the story had spread overnight with predictably distorted framing. From Aunt Patricia, "Your mother is devastated. How could you embarrass the family like this?" From Uncle Robert, "Financial disputes should stay private. Call your mother." From Cousin Jessica, "The caterers showed up demanding additional payment. My shower is ruined, and I'm too stressed for the baby now." From my brother Tyler, "Mom's hysterical. Fix this." From Aunt Margaret, surprisingly, "Call me when you can. I want to hear your side." I took a deep breath, put on a robe, and went to the door, opening it without removing the security chain. My mother burst into speech immediately. "What have you done?" "The bank reversed all the transactions. The caterer is threatening legal action against me. Jessica is in tears. Your own family, Cassandra, your own blood." "I stopped unauthorized access to my accounts," I replied calmly. "Nothing more." "Unauthorized? I am your mother. You gave me access years ago. For a specific emergency during college. Not to take my entire bonus without permission." Her face contorted with the familiar mixture of indignation and calculation I had seen throughout my childhood whenever her actions were questioned. "I did not steal anything," she hissed. "I redirected funds to where they were needed most. Jessica is family. That baby is your blood relation. Your selfishness is showing, Cassandra. What would you have spent it on? Anyway, more expensive clothes, another vacation. While your cousin struggles to afford diapers." The manipulation tactic was so transparent now that I had stepped back from it. For years, such arguments had triggered my guilt and compliance. Today, they simply confirmed I had made the right decision. "If you were concerned about Jessica's baby supplies, you could have asked me directly to contribute what I felt comfortable giving. Instead, you took everything without asking for an elaborate party, rather than practical needs. Family does not need to ask permission to help family. Taking $12,800 without consent is not help, Mom. It is theft." She gasped dramatically. "Theft? Your own mother? After everything I have sacrificed for you?" "I need to get ready for work," I said, refusing to engage with the martyr routine. "We can discuss this when you are calmer." "Discuss? There is nothing to discuss. You will unfreeze those transactions immediately. Jessica's reputation is destroyed. My word in the community is ruined. That was your choice when you spent money that wasn't yours." Her strategy shifted instantly, tears replacing rage. "Please, Cassie, they are threatening to sue me. I cannot afford lawyers. I could lose the house." The house that I had helped her refinance last year. The house where she had just hosted a lavish party with my stolen money. The bank is reversing the transactions because they were unauthorized. The merchants will get their money back from the bank, not from you. You won't be sued if you explain that you made the purchases without proper authorization. You want me to admit to stealing to strangers. I want you to be honest about what happened." Her face hardened. "I will tell everyone what you did. How you humiliated your pregnant cousin. How you care more about money than family. No one will take your side." I had expected this exact threat. It had worked countless times before, the fear of family rejection keeping me in line. Today, it simply reinforced my resolve. That is your choice. My choice is to protect my financial security. I closed the door despite her protests and got ready for work. Before leaving, I sent a single text to Aunt Margaret. "Can talk after 6 tonight." Arriving at Lawrence Financial Partners, I was not entirely surprised to find my mother waiting in the lobby. She had done this before when I wouldn't answer calls, showing up at my workplace to force confrontations where I would be professionally constrained from responding honestly. "There she is," she announced loudly, as I entered, drawing attention from colleagues and clients in the reception area. "The daughter who reports her own mother to the bank for fraud, who ruins a baby shower out of spite." Security approached immediately, as heads turned toward the disturbance. I made eye contact with Marcus, our head of security, who knew me well from 3 years of morning greetings. "This is my mother," I explained quietly. "She is upset about a personal matter. Could you please assist her outside? I have an important client meeting." "Absolutely, Miss Henderson," he replied professionally. "You cannot avoid this, Cassandra," my mother called as Marcus gently but firmly guided her toward the exit. "Family is forever. You cannot choose money over blood." Several colleagues witnessed the scene, including my direct supervisor, Janet, who approached with concern. Everything. All right, Cassandra, do you need to take some time this morning? Thank you, but I'd rather focus on work, I replied. It is a personal situation I am handling. If you need support or flexibility, just let me know, she offered. We value your well-being here. That simple professional courtesy almost broke my composure more than my mother's dramatics. In my workplace, my boundaries were respected without question. The contrast with my family dynamics couldn't have been starker. Throughout the day, my phone continued to accumulate messages. By lunch, word had spread further through the family network. Cousins I barely spoke to sent judgmental texts. Aunts called demanding explanations. Even my siblings, who had experienced our mother's financial manipulation themselves, pressured me to fix things and keep the peace. But scattered among the criticism were surprising messages of support. From my younger cousin, Alicia Aunt Diana, did the same thing to my graduation money last year. Thank you for standing up to her. From my mother's brother, Uncle James, been waiting 20 years for someone to call Diana on her financial games. Stay strong. From a distant cousin, I had met perhaps twice. Your mom borrowed $3,000 from my parents for emergency medical bills in 2018, turned out to be a cruise. They were too embarrassed to confront her. By 5:30 when I left work, the bank had confirmed that all 15 transactions had been successfully flagged for reversal. The funds would be returned to my new secure account within the week. My mother had been permanently removed from all access to my financial systems. Driving home, I felt a complex mixture of emotions, vindication, and sadness, relief, and grief. I had protected my resources and established critical boundaries. But at what relationship cost was financial autonomy worth the family conflict it had created? Then I remembered the years of small thefts, manipulations, and boundary violations that had led to this moment. The pattern would never have stopped on its own. My mother would never have recognized my financial independence without this forced consequence. Sometimes peace comes at too high a price. Sometimes respect must be demanded rather than requested. As difficult as this confrontation had been, it was the necessary first step toward healthier relationships based on genuine care rather than exploitation. That evening, I spoke with Aunt Margaret for over an hour. Unlike most of the family, she listened without judgment, asking thoughtful questions and offering perspective from her own difficult relationship with my mother. Diana has always been this way, she said. Money flows through her hands like water, and she feels entitled to whatever resources are within reach. You are the first person to establish real consequences, and that terrifies her. Her control is slipping. I never wanted to hurt her, I admitted. I just couldn't let this continue. Boundaries aren't punishment, Cassandra. They are protection. You did what you needed to do. As we ended our call, Margaret said something that would stay with me through the difficult days ahead. The guilt you feel isn't because you did something wrong. It is because she programmed that response in you. Breaking free of financial manipulation never feels comfortable, but it is necessary for your future. I slept better that night than I had in years, my finances secure and my path forward clear, despite the storm raging around me. By Wednesday morning, 3 days after the baby shower, the family had divided into distinct factions. Text messages, social media posts, and phone calls revealed the battle lines clearly forming around my actions. My mother had been busy crafting her narrative, presenting herself as the victim of my callous financial cruelty. According to her version, she had merely borrowed my bonus for a beautiful family celebration, fully intending to pay it back eventually. My overreaction had embarrassed Cousin Jessica, ruined a special family moment, and demonstrated my materialistic values. Many relatives accepted this framing without question, particularly those who had benefited from my mother's generous spending of other people's money over the years. Aunt Patricia, always my mother's staunchest defender, called me directly to deliver a scathing assessment of my character. "Family helps family," she lectured. "Your mother has sacrificed everything for you children. This is how you repay her, by humiliating her over money. Money comes and goes. Cassandra, but family is forever." Uncle William, my mother's older brother, sent a lengthy email suggesting I seek therapy for my unhealthy attachment to material wealth and inability to share with loved ones. He conveniently ignored that the sharing had been entirely non-consensual. Cousin Jessica, the unintentional center of the drama, oscillated between anger and embarrassment. She sent a tearful voice message describing how vendors had contacted her directly when payments were reversed, making her feel like a charity case and humiliated during what should be the happiest time of my life. I felt genuine sympathy for Jessica, who hadn't known the true source of the funding. After consideration, I sent her a direct message. "Jessica, I am truly sorry you were caught in the middle of this situation. This was never about you or your baby. I would have been happy to contribute something meaningful to help you prepare for Emily's arrival if asked directly. What I cannot accept is having all my funds taken without my knowledge or consent. I hope you understand this is between my mother and me." Her husband, Paul, surprisingly responded to my message with unexpected understanding. "We had no idea your mother used your money without permission. Jessica is upset about the situation, but we both understand boundaries. We would love to have a simple family dinner with you after things calm down. No gifts necessary, just family reconnecting the right way." This small gesture of understanding meant more than they could know. Meanwhile, a counter-narrative began emerging from unexpected sources. Family members with their own stories of financial manipulation by my mother started reaching out privately, sharing experiences they had previously kept silent about out of shame or family loyalty. My brother Tyler, after initially pressuring me to fix things, called with a change of heart. "Remember when Mom convinced Grandma to put her on the joint checking account to help with bills, and somehow Grandma's savings for her retirement community deposit disappeared? I just connected those dots." My sister, Amanda, the youngest and usually most defensive of our mother, texted, "Found out Mom took out a credit card in my name during college. Just discovered it while applying for a mortgage. $27,000 of debt I never knew about. Maybe you are right to protect yourself." Aunt Margaret organized a family meeting at her house for Sunday afternoon, ostensibly to heal the family rift. My mother assumed this meeting would focus on convincing me to retract the fraud claims and restore her access to my accounts. She arrived with printouts of baby shower photos, prepared to emotionally leverage the beautiful family moment I had ruined. Instead, the gathering took an unexpected turn. Aunt Margaret had invited only those family members directly affected by my mother's financial behavior over the years, creating a safe space for truth-telling. "We are here to address a pattern Margaret began, not an isolated incident." One by one, relatives shared their experiences. Uncle James described lending my mother $8,000 for supposed roof repairs, only to see her post Caribbean vacation photos the following week. Cousin Alicia recounted her graduation money disappearing when my mother offered to invest it safely. My siblings detailed childhoods of utilities being shut off while our mother got regular salon treatments. With each story, my mother's indignation transformed into defensive hostility. "You all benefited from my generosity over the years," she countered. "Who organized every holiday, who hosted every family gathering, who was always there when anyone needed anything." "With other people's money," Uncle James said quietly. Generosity with resources that aren't yours isn't actually generosity, Diana. The most powerful moment came when my grandmother, who had remained silent throughout the discussion, finally spoke. Diana, she said, her voice soft but firm, I raised you to know the difference between sharing and taking. What you did to Cassandra's bonus wasn't sharing, it was taking without asking. That is not how family treats family. My mother's face crumpled at this gentle rebuke from the one person whose approval she had always sought. For a brief moment, I glimpsed something I had rarely seen in her genuine shame. The family meeting ended without resolution, but with unprecedented honesty. My mother left early, refusing further discussion. Those who remained expressed variations of the same sentiment. My actions, while creating temporary discomfort, had exposed a pattern that needed addressing for the health of the entire family system. In the following days, the wider family communication shifted subtly. The pressure to retract my fraud claims diminished. Several relatives who had initially condemned my actions reached out with more measured perspectives, having heard the fuller context. Cousin Jessica and her husband invited me to a private lunch where she apologized for her initial reaction. I had no idea what was really happening, she admitted. Your mom told me you had enthusiastically offered to sponsor the shower, but wanted to keep it low-key. I should have verified directly with you. You weren't responsible for her actions, I assured her, and I truly am happy for you and the baby. I presented her with a gift card to a baby supply store, an amount I had chosen freely and could genuinely afford to give. This is from me directly to you with my full knowledge and consent. The tears in her eyes were different this time, genuine gratitude rather than manipulation. By the 2-week mark after the incident, an uneasy new normal had begun to establish itself in the family. My mother maintained minimal contact, occasionally sending passive-aggressive messages designed to trigger guilt. I responded only to direct questions, maintaining firm boundaries without engaging in emotional manipulation. Some family relationships strengthened through this crisis. Others weakened or revealed their conditional nature. I discovered who valued me for myself, and who had merely tolerated me as an extension of my mother's influence. Throughout this painful evolution, I held fast to the knowledge that financial autonomy was my right, not a privilege to be granted or withdrawn based on others' demands. The discomfort of confrontation was temporary. The freedom of established boundaries would benefit me for a lifetime. 6 months after the baby shower incident, spring brought literal and metaphorical new beginnings to my life. The financial consequences had been fully resolved within weeks. My $12,800 bonus returned and secured in accounts only I could access. The emotional aftermath, however, continued to evolve in ways both challenging and unexpectedly positive. My relationship with my mother had transformed dramatically. After 2 months of minimal contact following the family meeting, she had reached out with what passed for an apology in her worldview. I may have overstepped with your account, she wrote in a carefully worded text. I always intended it for family benefit. Not quite an acknowledgement of wrongdoing, but a step toward reality. I accepted this partial recognition and established clear terms for our continued relationship. No discussion of my finances, no access to any of my accounts or personal information, and immediate consequences for boundary violations. Our interactions now occurred primarily in group settings with other family members present. These boundaries created distance, but also paradoxically allowed for more authentic connection within clearly defined parameters. Without the undercurrent of financial exploitation, we could relate as adult family members rather than as resource provider and resource extractor. The broader family dynamic had shifted permanently as well. My stand against financial manipulation had emboldened others to establish their own boundaries. My sister Amanda had finally confronted our mother about the fraudulent credit card resulting in a payment plan to resolve the debt. Uncle James now required written agreements for any financial interactions within the family. Grandmother had removed my mother from all her accounts and established a trust with neutral oversight. These changes created tension, but also unprecedented honesty in family relationships. When manipulation no longer worked as a strategy, genuine connection became the only option. Meanwhile, I had finally allocated my recovered bonus according to my original plans. $6,000 went toward my student loan principal, reducing both the balance and interest significantly. $4,000 strengthened my emergency fund, creating greater security and peace of mind. The remaining money funded a rejuvenating week in a mountain cabin, where I hiked, read, and reflected on the dramatic changes in my life. This financial self-care represented more than practical money management. It symbolized my right to prioritize my own well-being and future security. Each allocation reflected a choice made freely without coercion or manipulation, an expression of autonomy I had defended at significant emotional cost. The experience had prompted me to seek therapy, specifically focusing on financial trauma and family dynamics. Dr. Winters helped me recognize patterns established in childhood that had made me vulnerable to financial exploitation well into adulthood. Children raised with financial instability often develop complex relationships with money, she explained during one particularly insightful session. You learned early that resources could disappear unpredictably. That created both hypervigilance about money and a deep-seated fear that protecting your resources makes you selfish or unloving. These insights helped me separate legitimate generosity from exploitative expectations. I could choose to help family members in ways that aligned with my values and capacity without sacrificing my financial health or autonomy. In a meaningful gesture of genuine generosity, I helped cousin Jessica set up a college fund for baby Emily with proper legal protections, ensuring the money could only be used for its intended purpose. I also connected Jessica with financial literacy resources that had helped me establish independence years earlier. I never realized how vulnerable I was financially until the shower incident Jessica confided during a coffee date. Watching how you handled everything inspired me to take control of our family finances. Paul and I have actual savings for the first time. My relationship with Aunt Margaret deepened into a supportive friendship between equals. Her willingness to stand for truth during the family crisis had given me courage when I needed it most. You remind me of myself at your age, she told me, during one of our now regular Sunday brunches. I wish I had established boundaries with Diana decades ago. Better late than never, though. On a professional level, the experience strengthened my career in unexpected ways. The analytical skills and decisiveness I demonstrated in handling my personal financial crisis impressed senior leadership at Lawrence Financial. 6 months after the incident, I received another promotion to team lead with a substantial salary increase and expanded responsibilities. My personal financial management became even more structured and intentional. I established additional security measures, regular financial reviews, and clear protocols for any shared expenses. I created comprehensive estate planning documents despite my relative youth, ensuring my assets would be protected and distributed according to my wishes under any circumstance. Most importantly, I developed a healthier psychological relationship with money. Resources were neither something to hoard anxiously nor to surrender out of guilt. Money represented choices, security, and the freedom to build a life aligned with my values. Protecting that freedom wasn't selfish, it was necessary. The most profound change was internal, the dissolution of the false dichotomy between financial security and family loyalty. I could love my family without sacrificing my boundaries. I could maintain boundaries while still offering appropriate support. Financial autonomy and family connection could coexist, though finding that balance required courage, clarity, and consistent reinforcement. On the evening of my 29th birthday, I hosted a small dinner gathering for the family members who had supported my journey toward financial independence. As we shared a meal I had chosen and paid for with joy rather than resentment or obligation, I realized something fundamental had shifted within me. The property that had changed most significantly that night, 6 months ago, was not the house, the money, or the family structure. It was me. I was no longer defined by what I could provide, no longer valued for what could be extracted from me. I belonged wholly to myself, my resources, extensions of my autonomy, rather than substitutes for genuine connection. That night, after my guests departed, I sat on my balcony watching the city lights and reflecting on the journey from that shocking baby shower to this moment of hard-won peace. The path had been painful, but necessary, the lessons invaluable. In protecting my finances, I had discovered something far more precious, the unshakable knowledge of my right to boundaries, respect, and self-determination. The account was secured, and so was I. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with family members over finances? I would love to hear your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about establishing healthy boundaries. Share this video with someone who might need encouragement to stand up for their financial autonomy. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, protecting your resources isn't selfish. It's necessary for your well-being and future.